Hello, folks. It is November 30th, 2005. I'm your host, Alex Jones. We're going to be here for the next 57 and a half minutes live. And God willing, if the phone system's up to snuff this evening, we'll also take some of your phone calls. I want to thank our prodigious crew that we have here with us this evening. And the websites to document and double-check and research the things we say here are INFOWARS.com, PrisonPlanet.com, INFOWARS.net, and PrisonPlanet.tv. Look at this. Pentagon looking into report military paid to plant news in Iraqi press. Well, wait a minute. The Pentagon admits they plant fake news in our press, and they're the ones planting the fake news in the Iraqi press. So the Pentagon is going to look into itself. The Pentagon is going to look into itself to see if there's any news being planted. Another one. This is this story that I just read was out of the Associated Press. It's also carried by the French news agency, AFP. Here's another one from News 24. I was paid to blame Syria. More evidence comes out that our government was paying people to make up more lies. Why, they've been caught over and over again. Why would you believe these latest confirmed allegations? You just saw that little video piece that they put together to promote the video game that Xbox has put out, Shattered Union. And Paul Watson wrote an article about this today after I sent him the clip. And I think Paul sums it up nicely. So while we play you some of the images from Shattered Union, I'm going to read over this article that Paul Watson wrote. Apocalyptic video game features global government takeover. A new video game now available on Xbox PC depicts an apocalyptic vision of America after the year 2008, where terror attacks carried out by anti-government militias forced the European Union to send in an occupying army of loving Russian troops, I would add. Shattered Union, look at this shot right here coming up. It shows troops with people on their knees, and we've shot video of this at Urban Warrior in California back in the late 90s. I have Marine Corps officers admitting this is for America. Now, back then it was hard to believe. Now you hear martial law is good. Martial law is great. Martial law is what gets the bread sliced and gets the kids off of school in the morning. A government ruling you with a dictatorship is good. It keeps you safe. And let's just rewind that again and pause that there for everybody, because this is important. Shattered Union has the player take control of one of 7 different warring factions. After a dictator is installed as president in 2008, society gradually collapses into anarchy with a series of terror attacks carried out by domestic militia groups against the government. The result of the chaos is that the EU votes to occupy the United States with a peacekeeping force, which is strongly resented by the population. Civil war ensues in the following years, including a nuclear strike on Washington, D.C. Because everybody knows evil guys that look like that, they're on your screen, are carrying nukes around their back pockets. By the way, folks, we have that exact an image, 90% the same. A man who looks just like that being searched by the Marines. We have a woman being searched, the exact same stuff. But in the real world, preparing you for it. Now you've seen gun confiscation in New Orleans. You've seen Mexican and Dutch and British troops engaging in it. However, the game depicts scenes of martial law with troops pointing guns at American citizens' heads. The player can enlist the help of the National Guard or the Russians to quell the dissent. To a new generation of youngsters growing up on these video games, what does this teach them? That a domestic military dictatorship is inevitable and that anti-government terrorists will have to be dealt with by using extreme force. Last week we featured a short article about the game Battlefield 2. It's like every game now, where players, there are literally hundreds, fight for the New World Order against the evil militias. Again, the foreign troop games, they're prolific. Got to kill the Americans. It's good. In battling against domestic insurgents. And the official deals have been signed to, quote, bring in foreign assets to deal with American terrorists 4 years ago. See, the real world is being mirrored by these preparations. These types of games have become part of a growing trend in the last few years, and one that should worry us in the light of the fact that MTV, movie and sports stars, video games, and popular culture have all but replaced parents as the guardian of a child's moral compass. Although the different factions are at war with each other and the EU occupation, the website sardonically describes the anti-EU Texas Republic faction as beer-swilling cowboys and gun-toting rabble, and remarks that the Republic of Texas was just one excuse away from exiting since the formation of Texas itself. And folks, it just goes on and on and on. Continuing, one description page of different factions, the website describes the European Union occupation. The European Union peacekeeping force currently resides in the territory made up of the former states of Maryland, Delaware, and parts of Virginia, West Virginia, and New Jersey. Right now, it's currently just in New Orleans and Mississippi, Louisiana. After open hostilities broke out, the war compounded the growing inability of the world due to loss of such a large prolific market. The EU voted to reestablish the Union of States to prevent the spreading chaos. American resentment has grown since the EU decided to expand its role in the war. But the good guys, folks, in the game are the loving Russians backing up INFOWARS and the UN and EU. Video games of this nature are controlling and conditioning a generation to believe that when bedlam breaks out, martial law is the solution and that anti-government groups and terrorists are hell-bent on destruction. We just wish game developers would show some balance and think about creating storylines where freedom-loving individuals fight against and not for the New World Order. To see such a game emerge and become popular would make a refreshing change. There are just so many other games that have the exact same storyline or similar storylines. I mean, there are games where you torture militia members to get answers out of them. And Paul also makes the point that in history, you look at who has the motive for terror. Who gets power? Who gets control? Who carries out the terror attacks? Caesar, Hitler, Stalin, William McKinley, LBJ, Bill Clinton. They've all been caught publicly carrying out terror attacks and blaming it on their political enemies. We have squadrons of declassified documents. This is part of the public record. Do you understand that? This is the reality. The militia doesn't even exist in this country. In the way you hear the media portray it, every man 18 to 49, if there's a big fire burning through the town or if there are criminals out robbing and raping and killing, the sheriff comes in and says, all you men come with me, we're going to go catch who's done this. Or the governor, if there is an attack on the country or the state, he can call out the militia. It's the civil defense. It's the National Guard. But it's every man physically. And I guess now, modern times, women. But they demonize it, and they go in and create fake militias, and their leaders are openly FBI, or they go and they infiltrate militias and get people to shoot their mouths off about how they're going to carry out violence. Then they have a big sting on the news, and you hear they were planning to kill everybody at a chemical plant. Then it turns out it's a Klan group founded by the FBI, didn't even exist before them. Then they snuck in 1992 to a BATF, FBI, Alabama law enforcement meeting, several thousand cops, FBI and others. They were hanging blacks in effigy, selling what they called nigger hunting licenses, very offensive, just loving every minute of it. And statistically, government, police commit suicide more, deal drugs more, beat their wives more. Every form of crime, every form, is higher statistically in people that are in government service, number one. And of that group, the highest level. This is Criminology 101, folks. It's in the back of the book, but it's there. Number one is cops. Now, wait a minute. I know in this government we're all guilty until proven innocent. We're all evil. We're all bad. Need to be shoved around. You treat us like that. I'm not saying that you're all guilty. I'm not saying that you're all criminals. The majority of you are great men and women, even though you're following the prerogatives of a corrupt system and being corrupted more and more, and most of you don't even know it.